Hello everyone and welcome back, and today we will be talking about choosing a process. So today we will be answering the following questions. What is the difference between a process and a process template? What are the three default processes used by Visual Studio Team Services and by Team Foundation Server? What are the distinctions between work item types and states used by the three default processes? What are the workflow states, transitions, and reasons used by the three default processes? So the content for the next 4 sessions will come from visualstudio.com. And this is the overview for Visual Studio Team Services and Team Foundation Server. And the site looks like this. Anytime you create a team project, you must choose a process or process template based on the process model you use. A process defines the building blocks of the work item tracking system and supports the inheritance process model for team services. A process template defines the building blocks of the work item tracking system as well as other subsystems you access through team services or the on-premise Team Foundation server. Scrum, Agile, and CMMI, a dangerously quick overview of the three default processes in TFS. Scrum. Choose Scrum when your team practices Scrum. This process works great if you want to track product backlog items and bugs on the Kanban board or break PBIs and bugs down into tasks on the task board. This process supports the Scrum methodology as defined by the Scrum organization. Tasks support tracking remaining work only. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this diagram here. So your topmost level work item will be an epic. An epic will consist of features, and a feature will consist of a product backlog item, and the product backlog item will have several tasks beneath it. Also in the backlog, you're going to have bugs, and the bugs may or may not have tasks associated with them. Issue tracking. So if they have an issue, this will be tracked by something called an impediment. Agile. Choose Agile when your team uses Agile planning methods, including Scrum, and tracks development and test activities separately. This process works great if you want to track user stories and, optionally, bugs on the Kanban board or track bugs and tasks on the task board. You can learn more about Agile methodologies at the Agile Alliance. Tasks support tracking original estimate, remaining work, and completed work. Okay, now I want to talk about this one as well. So here, again, this looks very similar to what happens in Scrum. Really, the only difference is that instead of a product backlog item, you have something called a user story, and instead of having an impediment, you have something called an issue. But other than that, the work items within Agile are very similar. CMMI. Choose CMMI when your team follows more formal project methods that require a framework for process improvement and an auditable record of decisions. With this process, you can track requirements, change requests, risk, and reviews. This process supports formal change management activities. Tasks support tracking original estimate, remaining work, and completed work. Now, let's talk about this diagram. So, again, you have an epic and a feature. Instead of being called a user story, it's called a requirement. You'll have tasks again with that. Also, one thing in your backlog, you have a bug with subset tasks underneath that. But for your issue, change, and risk management, you have 4 different items here. You have a change request, you have a review, you have an issue, and you have a risk. Process distinctions. Distinctions between work item types and states used by the 3 default processes. Process distinctions. The following table summarizes the main distinctions between work item types and states used by the 3 default processes. So, alright, so in here, these are the workflow states, and you can see that they're different. Here they are for Scrum. We have new, approved, committed, done, and removed. For Agile, you have new, active, resolved, closed, and removed. And for CMI, you have proposed, active, resolved, and closed. This is what I was talking about earlier. So in Scrum, your product planning, this is called a product backlog item. In Agile, it's called a user story. And CMMI is called a requirement. You still have bugs in here. You still have epics and features across the three. The same thing for tasks or for bugs. Your issues are handled differently, where in Scrum you have something called an impediment. In Agile you have an issue, and in CMMI you have an issue, risk, and reviews. And all of these I'll talk about a lot more in separate videos I have for each of Scrum, Agile, and CMMI. The following diagrams show the typical forward progression of those work item types used to track work and code defects for the three default processes. So there's a lot going on here. I'm not going to cover everything, but I just want to touch on a few high points. So as you can see, these charts are for Scrum, Agile, and CMMI. If you look at the epic and any of these types of processes, you can see that they become increasingly more complex. You can watch the epic here, you can watch the feature here. You can see that across these three processes, you have a backlog item for Scrum, a user story for Agile, a requirement for CMMI, and here's your bug process. So I'm not going to go over all of these right here. I just want you to be aware of what these processes are and that they become more complex as you go from Scrum to Agile to CMMI. And again, when I'll talk about these in detail in subsequent videos for Scrum, Agile, and CMMI. Okay, so here we are looking at a task flow for Scrum, Agile, and CMMI. Within Scrum, you go from the to-do to the in progress to done, and you can remove a task. And Agile, you go from new to active to close, and you can remove a task. From CMMI, you go from proposed to active to resolved and closed. You cannot remove a task here. As I said just a few seconds ago, you can remove tasks in both Scrum and Agile, but I'll only do so with the permission of your product owner and your Scrum Master. Process similarities, sharing work item types among the three default processes. Process similarities. The following work item types are added to all processes. So, underneath the Microsoft Test Manager, everything has a test plan, test case, shared parameters, a test suite, and shared steps. For feedback, you have a feedback request and a feedback review. And for a code review, we have a code review request and a code review response. Work item types that support the test experience and work with Test Manager and the TFS web portal are linked together using the link types shown in the following picture. So I'm going to talk about this as well. So a requirement, which is CMMI, user story, which is Agile, product backlog item, which is Scrum. They can be related to bugs. All of these are going to be related to a test case, which is preceded by a test suite, which is preceded by a test plan. Now your test case is going to have shared steps, and it will also have shared parameters. Putting it all together, you need to choose the process that works best for you and your team. Some say Scrum is too light, others say CMMI is too much. Lastly, others say Agile is just right. For me and for all my projects, I prefer to use Agile. It seems to be right there in the middle. It's not too soft, it's not too hard, it's just right. Lastly, I have some supplemental links. I have one for the Scrum organization, one for the Agile Alliance, one for the CMMI Institute, and one for the background to CMMI, and you can look at these at your discretion. Anyway, that's all that I have for now, and thanks for watching.